Hello, and welcome back. I hope you are doing very well. This Sunday morning, I'm going to read you a story, and it's going to be a good one. So, after Joshua and the Israelites moved into the land God had promised to give them, the people around them grew more and more nervous because they weren't the only ones there. God said, "This land, it's yours." Israelites move in. The people living around that area are like, "Hey, that's a lot of people who just moved in." They were nervous about the Israelites living in their land. Some of the nearby kings didn't like having the Israelites near them. Most of these kings decided that the best thing to do was to fight, even though they had already seen Israel defeat the people of Jericho and Ai. Yeah, don't pick a fight with the Israelites. But the Gibeonites had a different idea to protect themselves. They were going to trick the Israelites. It wasn't long before a scraggly group of people came to Joshua and the leaders of Israel. Their sandals and clothes looked as if they'd been worn to pieces. Their food seemed to be really old. What do you think the Gibeonites were pretending to be? The Gibeonites told Joshua that they were travelers from faraway land. They insisted that the bread they were carrying had been warm when they left home, but they were lying. Joshua and the other leaders checked out their story. Yes, the bread was old. Their sandals were worn. But there was one really important thing the Israelites forgot to do. What do you think the really important thing the Israelites forgot to do? It's kind of been a theme for the Israelites for a long time now in our stories. Something that keeps getting them into trouble. And if they just did this one thing, they'd avoid it. Yeah, they didn't ask God for guidance. They didn't consult God. The wise God has an infinite amount of knowledge and resources available to him. He created everything. He knows the intricacies of everything. You, me, the Israelites, the Gibeonites, he knew it all. And they were like, let's just look at them. Yep, these guys look like they're telling the truth. So based on what they saw and touched and tasted, the Israelites made a treaty or a promise with the Gibeonites. They gave their promise that they would not attack these people because they thought, hey, these guys were like, they don't got a whole lot. They're starving out here. We won't come after you guys. 3 days later, Joshua got some very interesting news. It turned out that the Gibeonites were actually neighbors, and now the Israelite leaders had promised to protect them. Of course, the Israelites wanted to go and attack the Gibeonites, but Joshua and the leaders had already made a promise, and they weren't going to break their promise. Hey, at least their word is good. Soon after that, 5 kings of the land got together. The kings decided they would attack the Gibeonites because they had made a treaty with Israel, the very nation they were most afraid of. So the kings joined together and moved toward Gibeon. And of course, who did the Gibeonites ask for help? They sent word to Joshua that they needed Israel's army to protect them right away. Man, Gibeonites, what's going on? So Joshua and his entire army moved out. As they went, God told Joshua, "Don't be afraid of them. I have given these armies into your hand. Not one of them will be able to stand against you." That must have made Joshua feel better. Yeah, if God says, hey, these 5 armies, don't worry about them. You've already won. It made him feel better, especially since he was risking his life and his best fighting men to save the Gibeonites. God did just what he said he would do. He helped Joshua protect the Gibeonites. Joshua and his army marched all night long. As dawn broke, the Israelites showed up and surprised the other armies. But even better than a surprise attack, God made the 5 armies so confused that the enemy soldiers started running everywhere. They had no idea what was going on. Joshua and the Israelites get a surprise attack. The 5 armies freak out, and they all start going crazy. They don't even know what's going on. Then God did one more amazing thing to help his people. Joshua asked for the sun and the moon to stand still so the Israelites could finish the battle in a day. God heard him and listened. So here's what Joshua chapter 10, verse 12 through 14 says about that. At that time, Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the sons of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, "Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of," I don't know how to pronounce that, "in the valley." And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jashar? The sun stopped in the midst of heaven and did not hurry to set for about a whole day. There has been no day like it before or since, when the Lord heeded the voice of man, for the Lord fought for Israel. Boom. Joshua asked God to stop time, dude. That's crazy. And he did. God stopped it. I mean, what we can perceive as time. God is outside of time. But anyway, he listened and, helped the Israelites. Nothing like that had ever happened before, and nothing like it has ever happened since. God fought the battle for the Israelites in amazing ways. So, when the Gibeonites showed up with their sneaky story, Joshua had to decide whether or not to believe them, but forgot to ask God for help in making his decision. Because of that, Joshua made a big mistake. But when Joshua asked God for help to protect the Gibeonites, God did amazing things. Have you ever had a hard time deciding what to order from a menu? Every day, we have decisions to make. Every day, pretty much every moment of our lives, we have decisions. Some of them are a lot harder to make than others. When we are not sure what to do, God wants us to ask him for help. We don't always know the best decision to make, but God always knows exactly what we should do. No matter what we need to choose, you can ask God to show you what is best. And I highly encourage that. If there is ever a decision in your life that you are having trouble, choosing an outcome, deciding, always consult God. Always, always, because it will always benefit you. It'll never harm you. It'll never hurt you. It'll never make you choose the bad decision. Asking God for wise counsel will only benefit you. I promise you. All right. I will see you next week with another story.